Hello everyone and welcome to one of the most awesome games that was played online in quite some time now. I think it was around 2 days ago that was played. It's a Blitz game, 3-minute Blitz game between Alireza, Firouzja and Hikaru Nakamura, and it's just insane. Like the quote above the board says, this is as good as it's ever going to get. And it's quite an impressive game. Sorry about the board being flipped. I have no idea how that happened. But yeah, it's Alireza with the white pieces, and let's just dive straight into it as we have a lot to cover, even though it's an incredibly short game. So without further ado, let's check it out. Alireza opens with e4. Hikaru replies with e5. We have knight to c3 now, the Vienna game, and knight to c6. We have bishop to c4 and bishop to c5. So a symmetrical opening so far. The max Lange defense has been employed, and queen to g4 now by Alireza. Not going for any tricky queen f3 ideas, but rather queen to g4, going after the g7 pawn. And here, a lot of things are possible. You can even give up the g7 pawn. For example, you open up an attack towards the queen, you give it up, and then you just develop your queen. And after this has been traded, you're down a pawn, but you will have the semi-open g file for attack. You're up in development. So it is one of the possibilities. However, Hikaru goes queen to f6, and now he's the one threatening queen captures on f2. And here Alireza took some time, not a lot of time, a few seconds, because up until this point they've pretty much blitzed out all of the moves. And here Alireza played knight to d5, and Hikaru was very surprised at this move, because why would Alireza allow queen captures on f2? So we've basically reached a position from the thumbnail, and now Hikaru needs to decide whether to capture on f2 or not. Well, you have to, otherwise there's really not much you can do. White is threatening a lot. You still have to keep an eye on the g7 pawn. Knight captures on c7. Check is coming, which will be devastating. So not a lot of options here. So Hikaru goes for it. We have queen captures on f2 with check, king to d1. And here Hikaru says he only needs one more move to finish development, and that he will be completely fine. However, is there such a move? Yes, there is. King to f8, and now this will not come with check, and also the g7 pawn has been protected. But now Alireza gets a lot of development in. Knight to h3, and with the f1 square covered by the bishop, rook to f1 is also coming, and there's gonna be a lot of pressure on the f7 square. So here Hikaru needs to move. Hikaru was considering h5, which is what the engine recommends, as it also goes with a counterattack against the white queen, but he instead decides to retreat with his queen to d4. Here we have d3 by Alireza. Now there are some dangers of capturing the queen. c3 could be extremely dangerous, but Hikaru also has the move. So d6 attacking Alireza's queen on g4, and now comes queen to f3. And queen to f3, although it seems like a pretty good idea, queen to g3 is actually much better. I'm gonna show you why. Because after queen to g3, there's still this c3 idea of just capturing the queen, and whatever black plays, let's say you capture on h3, just rook f1. And now again you have a lot of pressure here, and c3 again, always an idea. If you bring back the bishop to e6, just c3, and the queen is lost. So here we have instead of queen to g3, Alireza played queen to f3, and it seems like it's absolutely the same. c3 is coming, but here Hikaru plays a move that allows him to also attack Alireza's queen. And just to mention, instead of queen g3 or queen to f3, there's also queen to h4, a move which was played in the game Mises versus Qg4 in 1906 that Qg4 lost because white is just all over the place here. However, Alireza's queen to f3 move allows Hikaru this beautiful counterattack with h5. And now, yes, you can attack black's queen, but also just bishop to g4 will also win white's queen. So Alireza needs to go back. He goes knight to e3. Now he is covering the g4 square, but now comes knight to f6. And again, what do you play here? c3 right away attacking the black queen, just queen captures on e3. That's the problem. Queen captures on e3, and after bishop captures, you've eliminated the defender of the g4 square. Just bishop g4 wins now white's queen. So that's not really an option. So here, instead, after knight to f6, you have knight to g5. by Alireza. There is one game that was played in 2006 where knight to f5 was played. Interestingly, it was played between players of 1600 to 1800 elo strength. But instead, here we have knight to g5, and it is, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So here you can see that there's a lot of pressure on the f7 square. Both the knight and the bishop are attacking it. If the f6 knight moves, also the queen is attacking it. And for the moment, the knight on e3 defends the g4 square. So here we have bishop to g4. Hikaru goes for it, and he offers some trades here. So we have knight captures on g4, h captures, pushing back the queen, queen to e2, and now g3 by Hikaru. He was considering rook captures on h2, but the problem is, of course, you will not capture and allow queen to g1 check, rather just rook to f1, and now there's again a lot of pressure here on the f file. So instead, after queen to e2, you have g3 by Hikaru. Now, of course, the pawn cannot be captured because the rook would be hanging. And here, h3 is the move. h3, and the game continues. You know, both players have something up their sleeve. However, Alireza goes for the absolute most aggressive knight captures on f7. And now the rook is under attack, and Hikaru needs to find a move. Here, Hikaru played rook captures on h2, but g captures on h2 was also incredibly beautiful because after you give up the rook, you have queen to g1 with check, trying to give up a queen. Of course, white declines that, and after queen to e1, just the queen captures on g2, and this is just a crazy, crazy position. Bishop to g1, also an option, so probably white will have to give up the rook. It's just a completely crazy position. But okay, after knight captures on f7, Hikaru played rook captures on h2, and now comes rook to f1. Alireza brings the rook back, and now he has a lot of pressure along the f-file, and white is perfectly fine here, except black has one move that, well, just completely destroys white. So feel free to pause the video and win the game for Nakamura while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to find it, congratulations on always considering how to sacrifice your queen. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's queen to f2. And here it's just completely hopeless for white. There's nothing for white to do here. You cannot ignore it. You cannot defend against anything. You could ignore it with a move like, for example, c3, but then just comes queen captures on g2, and it's just completely lost. Now, you've opened up the path for the g-pawn. You can just trade here, push the g-pawn, so you would have to capture this at some point, and, well, with the bishop covering g1, there's just not much you can play. You can harass the bishop for a little bit, but the bishop will be fine on b6, and white is completely lost. For example, if we try something like knight to g5, you're gonna get king to e7, and still white has no moves. There is no good move. You can't really develop the bishop. This is covered, so not much for white to do here. Knight f3, rook h8 is coming, then the rook can also help out with the attack, and it's just the position will very soon crumble. So this is with absolute best defense, for example, if something like c3 is played. But rook captures on f2 seems to be an even better line, but also an insufficient one. Not a better one, but it seems more natural to just capture the queen and then see what happens. So queen captures on f2 was played, but now comes g captures on f2 with the pawn being defended, and now rook to h1 is coming. Rook to h1 check, followed by just queening the pawn. So here Alireza blocks it with the queen, but now Hikaru instantly plays knight to h5, and it was in this position on move 17, yes, you've heard me correctly, on move 17 that Alireza Firouzja resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Knight to g3 is coming, and you will not have any moves. You will either have to give up the queen or move the queen, and then and then black just promotes. So incredible game, only 17 moves, but just because it's such a short game, I will show how rich the position is. Here Alireza resigned because he was down to 15 seconds on the clock, and Hikaru was much better on time. But there is a very poisonous line, or poisoned line. Still haven't decided which one fits better. So I will show it. Now, of course, knight to g3 is coming. But for example, knight to g5. And now, of course, after knight to g3, you go knight to e6 check. And it's not all that simple, because if you go king e7, you allow bishop to g5 check. And now after king to e8, you have knight captures on g7 check, king to d7, or you have to go king to f8 and allow a perpetual after knight to e6. But if you go here, then this is just checkmate. So one of the possibilities. Another one, after knight to e6 check, is that you don't go king to e7, but rather you go king to e8, which is much better. But then comes knight captures on g7 check, and now you have to run with the king. King d8, knight e6 check, king to c8, knight captures on c5, and now after knight captures on f1, finally grabbing the queen, now bishop to e6 check. And again, black has a lot of options here to make a mistake. Not a lot. With a lot, I meant one. If he goes, for example, king to d8. King to b8 is the only way king to b8 would be not winning, but would be much better for white. So we're gonna show this one. King b8. Now comes knight to d7 with check. King c8. You have to go well here. To suffer some very nasty discoveries. Knight captures on e5 with check. King to b8, you're gonna go back. Knight captures on c6 with check. B captures, and now king to e2, and white is actually doing okay, because after rook captures on g2, you can capture on f1. And after the rook moves, you're gonna, of course, not allow this to come with check. You have two bishops for a rook, and white is perfectly fine here. So the only way for black to win this after bishop to e6 check is king to d8, and now you start going back. And now you allow some checks. Bishop to g5 with check, king to e8, bishop d7 check, king to f7, you're gonna go get king to e2, but now after rook captures on g2, it's different, because after the knight on f1 is captured, now you have knight to d4 with check, well, the knight here is still under attack. That's the problem. King d2, you're gonna get rook captures on g5, rook captures on f2 with check, king e7, now attacking both the bishop and the knight here, and now it doesn't matter. You're gonna lose one of the pieces. Let's say knight b3, captures, and now after king captures, black is up a whole rook. So in the end, black will prevail, but it requires the absolute best play. And if Alireza had a bit more time, I'm sure he would have tried not to, of course, find all of this, but he would have fought, and we would have gotten a crazy game. But this is a 3-minute game, so it's pointless to overanalyze it. I just showed this line because it's super interesting, but of course, expecting such lines to happen in a 3-minute blitz game would be completely crazy. So this way, it's much better. 17 moves, a brilliant miniature. Congratulations to Hikaru, and we can only hope that more games such as this one happen online or over the board. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank How to Build a Rumford Fireplace, John Roberts, Andrew Shupik, Jonathan Starr, and Kerry Dorf for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphe saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world, such as this beauty here. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent start of your week.